It started on a quiet Sunday morning, the kind of morning when everything feels calm and ordinary. The sun was shining through our kitchen window, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. My wife, Clara, was standing near the counter, smiling as she looked at the dress she had made the night before. She had poured her heart into that piece, a soft, blue summer dress that shimmered like the morning sky. Little did we know, that simple dress would soon become the talk of our entire neighborhood. You see, Clara isn't just my wife, she's an artist in her own way. Her hands can turn fabric into emotion. Every thread she touches seems to carry a story. She runs her own little fashion boutique, something she built from nothing but pure hard work, patience, and love. It's her pride and her passion. That Sunday, she decided to wear her own creation to the monthly HOA meeting, a community gathering where all our neighbors come together. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just wanted to feel confident, comfortable, and a little bit proud of what she had made. But there's always one person who can't stand to see someone else shine. And in our neighborhood, that person was Karen. Now, if you've ever met someone who makes it their mission to point out what's wrong with everything others do, that's her. Karen is the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, always judging, always gossiping, always ready to make a scene over the smallest thing. As soon as Clara and I walked into the clubhouse, I could feel the shift in the air. You know that quiet tension that creeps in when someone's about to say something mean? That was it. People's eyes turned toward Clara. She was glowing in that blue dress, her hair pinned up, her smile soft and pure. Then came the laugh. A sharp, high-pitched laugh that sliced through the room like a blade. "Oh my," Karen said loudly, pretending to whisper but making sure everyone heard her. "Did she sew that herself? It looks homemade." The word homemade rolled off her tongue like an insult, dripping with fake pity. I watched as Clara froze for just a moment. Her hand brushed against her dress, as if she was trying to smooth away the embarrassment. I could see her eyes flicker, hurt, confusion, and then that quiet strength I've always admired. But Karen didn't stop there. She leaned over to another woman and whispered something else, and soon a few others were chuckling too. That laughter, as soft but cruel, filled the room. It felt heavy. Now, I don't usually lose my temper easily, but something about seeing the woman I love being mocked for something she worked so hard on, something that came from her soul, it lit a fire in me. I wanted to say something, but Clara placed her hand gently on mine. "Don't!" she whispered. "It's not worth it." And so she stood there, tall and graceful, pretending not to notice. She didn't give Karen the satisfaction of seeing her break, but inside, I knew she was hurting. The meeting went on, but honestly, I didn't hear a word. My focus was on Clara. Every time Karen's fake laughter echoed, it felt like another knife twisting in my chest. After the meeting, as we were leaving, Clara smiled softly and said, "You know what? It's okay. Sometimes people mock what they don't understand." Her voice was steady, but her eyes told the truth. That sting of humiliation was real. That night, while I was reading in the living room, I heard her sewing machine again, the soft rhythm of the needle moving up and down, steady and strong. It was her way of healing, of turning pain into beauty. I walked into her little studio, and there she was, surrounded by rolls of fabric, threads, and unfinished dreams. "You're working again?" I asked softly. She looked up and smiled. "Yes. If Karen thinks this dress is funny," she said, "maybe I'll make something even bolder next time." That's the thing about my wife. She doesn't fight with words. She fights with grace. Over the next few days, Clara kept creating. Dresses, scarves, and blouses, each one more beautiful than the last. She poured every emotion into her work, the hurt, the frustration, the pride. And slowly she built something incredible, a new collection she called the Skyline series. Inspired by that very blue dress Karen had mocked. What happened next still amazes me. A week later, one of our neighbors, Emily, stopped by the boutique. She had seen Clara's dress that day and couldn't stop thinking about it. I loved what you wore, she told Clara. It was elegant, different. Do you sell those? That single question changed everything. Soon, word started spreading. Emily told her friends, who told their friends. Within a month, Clara's small boutique was busier than it had ever been. Women from nearby neighborhoods started visiting, curious to see the homemade dresses that everyone was talking about. And here's the best part. Even some of the very same women who had laughed. With Karen ended up buying Clara's designs. Life has a funny way of humbling people. One morning, as Clara was arranging dresses on a rack, a familiar voice echoed from the doorway. "Hi," said Karen, forcing a smile. "I was wondering, do you have that blue dress in my size?" The silence that followed was almost poetic. Clara looked at her calmly, her eyes soft but steady. "I do," she said gently, "but it's custom made. You'll have to place an order, just like everyone else." For a moment, Karen didn't know what to say. She shifted awkwardly, smiled again, and said, "Of course, I'll think about it." Then she left. When she was gone, I couldn't help but laugh. "You handled that like a queen," I told Clara. She smiled, but her words stayed with me. You don't have to humiliate someone to win. Sometimes success speaks louder than revenge. That moment, that calm strength, taught me more than any argument could. From that day on, the same people who once whispered behind her back started admiring her. The same ones who mocked her for being too simple began asking her for advice. And through it all, Clara stayed humble. She never mentioned the past, never brought up Karen's name again. She just kept working, creating, and shining quietly, proving that kindness and confidence can outlast any kind of cruelty. As I watched her one evening, measuring fabric in the golden light of sunset, I realized something powerful. Sometimes, people's laughter isn't really about you. It's about their own insecurities, their own emptiness. And when you choose not to respond with hate, you win twice, once in silence and again in peace. Because at the end of the day, elegance isn't about what you wear. It's about how you carry your soul. After that day, everything began to change. Slowly, gently, but surely. Clara's boutique turned from a small dream into something truly special. Each morning I'd see her open the front door, her face glowing with quiet excitement. The bell above the entrance would ring softly as customers stepped inside, drawn in by the charm that only Clara's hands could create. The shop had this warm, welcoming feel, sunlight pouring through the windows, soft music playing in the background, and the scent of lavender drifting in the air. It wasn't fancy or modern, but it had heart, and that's what people felt the moment they walked in. Clara would greet every person with the same kind smile. "Welcome," she'd say. "Take your time. Look around." There was never pressure to buy, just warmth, stories, and laughter. One afternoon, as I sat behind the counter helping her with receipts, I noticed something beautiful. A group of older women, probably in their late 60s, were admiring one of Clara's dresses. "This fabric feels like the ones my mother used to wear," one of them said softly. Running her hand over the cloth, Clara smiled and replied, "That's because it's made from natural cotton, the kind they used years ago. I wanted something timeless." That woman's eyes sparkled. "Timeless," she whispered. "That's what we've all been looking for." And that was it. The real reason people came to her shop wasn't just for clothes. They came for the feeling, the memories her designs brought back. Before long, the boutique became a little meeting place for women who wanted to feel young again, beautiful again, and proud of themselves. They'd sit together, share tea, talk about their families, their lives, their memories, and sometimes even their heartbreaks. Clara listened to all of them. Every story, every tear, every laugh. Then she'd quietly take her notebook and sketch something new, inspired by what she heard. One woman, Mrs. Robinson, told Clara how she used to dance with her late husband every Sunday night. "He loved my yellow dress," she said, "but I lost it years ago." A few days later, Clara surprised her with a brand new yellow gown, soft, flowing, and full of sunshine. When Mrs. Robinson put it on, she cried. "It feels like he's here again," she whispered. Moments like that, They're the kind that remind you what real success looks like. Not money, not fame, but the power to touch a heart. Word spread beyond our neighborhood. Soon local magazines began mentioning Clara's boutique. They called her the woman who stitches stories into fabric. Even the local news came by once, filming a small feature about her shop. When that news piece aired, our phones wouldn't stop ringing. Orders poured in, not just from our town, but from nearby cities too. It was like the whole world had suddenly discovered what I had known all along, that Clara's talent was something rare and precious. And yet, she never changed. She still woke up early, made her coffee, tied her hair back, and worked quietly in her studio. "I don't want to chase success," she said one night. "I just want to make people feel something when they wear my dresses." But life has a way of testing even the strongest hearts. One evening, we got a letter from the HOA, the same HOA that Karen controlled. They claimed that Clara's boutique was causing too much traffic in the neighborhood. They wanted her to close it down or move it elsewhere. When I read that letter, my hands shook with anger. It wasn't about traffic. Everyone knew that. It was jealousy, pure and simple. But Clara? She stayed calm. "Let's not fight," she said quietly. "Let's show them what grace really means." The next day, instead of arguing or writing angry emails, Clara organized something unexpected, a community event. She called it the Neighborhood Showcase. She invited everyone, including Karen and the HOA members. The idea was to bring people together, not divide them. "If they think my work is a problem," she said, "I'll show them it can be a blessing." When the day arrived, our backyard looked magical. Strings of lights hung between the trees, tables were covered in flowers, and a small stage stood at the center. The air was filled with the sound of laughter, music, and the gentle hum of conversation. Dozens of women came wearing Clara's designs, blue, yellow, green, each one telling its own story. Some even brought their daughters and granddaughters. When Clara stepped up to speak, everyone grew quiet. "Thank you for coming," she began, her voice calm but full of emotion. "When I started this little boutique, I never thought it would mean so much to so many. This isn't about clothes. It's about confidence, connection, and community. Every piece I make is made with love, and it belongs to all of you who've shared your stories with me." People clapped, and I could see tears in more than a few eyes. And then, out of nowhere, I saw Karen standing near the back. Her arms were crossed, but her face wasn't angry anymore. She looked thoughtful, maybe even ashamed. After the event, she walked up to Clara slowly. "I wanted to say," she began, hesitating, "I didn't understand before. I thought you were just showing off. But now I see. You've brought this whole neighborhood together. I'm sorry." Clara looked at her kindly, smiled, and said, "Apology accepted. It takes courage to admit that." Karen nodded, looking down. For once, she didn't have anything sarcastic to say. That moment, that simple exchange, felt like healing. Like peace finally found its way into our little corner of the world. After that day, the HOA stopped bothering us. In fact, Karen even came to help with future events. She'd bring flowers, decorations, and sometimes even cookies. It was almost unbelievable, but that's the power of grace. Clara never mentioned the old incident again. She moved forward, not with pride, but with purpose. Her boutique kept growing, her designs kept touching hearts, and her story spread even further. People began writing letters from other states, widows, grandmothers, retired teachers, telling her how her dresses made them feel alive again. One letter I'll never forget said, "I wore your lavender dress to my 50th wedding anniversary. My husband has passed, but when I looked in the mirror, I felt like the girl he fell in love with. Thank you for giving me that moment again." When Clara read it, tears filled her eyes. "This," she whispered, "is why I do what I do. Every stitch, every thread carried love, and people could feel it." Months passed, and life in our neighborhood had completely changed. The same streets that once whispered gossip now carried laughter. The same people who once mocked Clara's dreams now wore her creations proudly. Every time I saw one of her dresses floating down the sidewalk, soft, elegant, and full of life, My heart swelled with pride. It wasn't just fabric anymore. It was proof that beauty born from kindness always finds its way. Clara's boutique became more than just a business. It became a small world of hope. People started calling it the Heart Boutique, not because of its name, but because every piece came from her heart. And soon, something beautiful started to happen. Women who used to hide away began coming out more. They started dressing up again, smiling again, living again. You could see it. The way their shoulders stood taller, the way their eyes shone brighter. Clara had reminded them that it's never too late to feel beautiful. One afternoon, I walked into the shop and saw a young woman crying softly in the fitting room. Clara was standing beside her, holding her hand. "Are you okay?" I asked. The girl wiped her tears and said, "My mother passed away last year. She loved your designs. I wanted to wear something that reminded me of her. And this dress feels like her hug." Clara hugged her gently and whispered, "That's the most precious compliment anyone could ever give me." That moment, it broke me and healed me at the same time, because that's who Clara was. She didn't just sell clothes. She gave people pieces of themselves back. Over time, she started offering free sewing classes every Sunday afternoon. She called it Threads of Love. Older women, widows, and retired teachers came together to learn, laugh, and create. They would sit in a circle, their sewing machines humming softly, their stories floating in the air like music. And sometimes, in the middle of it all, Clara would look up and smile at me, the kind of smile that said, "See, this is what it was all for." Even Karen attended one of those classes. Yes, that Karen. She showed up quietly one day, clutching a small notebook. "I thought I'd give it a try," she said awkwardly. Clara didn't hesitate. "Come in," she said warmly. "There's always room for one more." Weeks later, Karen was smiling again. Genuinely this time. She even started helping other women thread their machines and cut fabric. Who would have thought? The same woman who once mocked a dress now sat there learning how to make one. Life truly does come full circle. One day, a reporter from a big lifestyle magazine visited. She wanted to feature Clara's story, from the HOA incident to the success of her boutique. During the interview, the reporter asked, "What do you think was the turning point? The moment everything changed?" Clara smiled softly and said, "When I chose grace over anger." Those 5 words stayed with me for days, because that's what defined her, the power to stay kind when the world isn't. The article came out a few weeks later. The title read, "From Mockery to Masterpiece, the Woman Who Wove Grace into Fashion." The story spread like wildfire. People across the country started following her boutique online. Orders flooded in, but what mattered most to Clara wasn't the sales. It was the messages. Messages from grandmothers saying, "You reminded me of who I used to be." Messages from widows saying, "Your designs helped me smile again." Messages from strangers saying, "Your story gave me hope. It was no longer about a dress. It was about dignity, courage, and heart." But Clara never let fame change her soul. She still stitched every piece by hand, still served tea to every visitor, still took time to listen, and sometimes late at night, when the house was quiet and the stars glowed outside, she'd look up from her sewing and say, "Can you believe this all started because someone laughed at my dress?" I'd smile and answer, "Maybe that laugh was the best thing that ever happened to us," because it was true. That moment of pain had turned into something far greater than we could have imagined. Months turned into years, and Clara's boutique became a landmark, not because it was big or luxurious, but because it was loved. Generations of women came through its doors, each leaving with something more than fabric. They left with confidence, memories, and stories stitched into their hearts. And as for Karen, she changed, truly changed. She became one of Clara's biggest supporters. She often helped organize charity shows and even donated part of her HOA funds to sponsor sewing classes for widows. One afternoon, she came to our house with a bouquet of flowers. "I just wanted to thank you both," she said. "You taught me that kindness is stronger than pride." Clara hugged her and whispered, "We all learn when the time is right." That night, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I thought about everything that had happened. How something so small, a single cruel laugh, had set in motion a chain of grace that touched so many lives. And I realized something profound. Sometimes life gives you hurt, not to break you, but to awaken you, to show you who you really are and who you can become. Clara's story isn't just about fashion or business. It's about the quiet power of dignity, the way one person's calm heart can heal an entire community. Because real beauty isn't what you wear, it's what you carry inside you. So when people ask me now, "What's the secret behind your wife's success?" I smile and say, she never let bitterness touch her hands. She only sowed love. And that, my friend, is why every dress she makes still shines, because it carries a piece of her soul. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that grace, kindness, and faith can turn even the harshest moments into something beautiful. And remember, no matter your age or what others say, it's never too late to begin again. And to wear your courage like your finest dress,